Logan, I think he said you might be next.
I'll kill you, Mike.
Be in good shape because your health depends on it.
Do you really think you can kill Mike?
I actually think I would kill him, yes.
Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Honestly, where do we even begin? I think it's safe to say the Paul brothers have officially reached a new low. It's like someone took a fever dream, sprinkled in some internet controversy, and slapped a $40 million price tag on it. What do you get? Jake Paul, a guy in his mid-20s who's still young enough to get carded at bars, stepping into the ring against Mike Tyson, a 58-year-old boxing legend. Who even allowed this, and how did anyone think this was actually a good idea? I think they just blinded everyone with all the hype they pumped into this fight, and yet, somehow, Jake walked out that ring acting like he had just conquered the world. Yet, all he did was punch a guy who's 2 years away from senior discounts at the movies. But let's also be fair for a second. Jake did handle the fight with surprising respect, both online and offline. He treated Mike like the legend he is, which is rare considering his family's usual antics. But then there's Logan. Of course, Logan's just something else, which is quite clear simply due to all the controversies and for, well, just being Logan Paul.
An attention-hungry little clout goblin.
Yeah, Logan said more than once,
I'll kill you, Mike.
Logan, buddy. Threatening a 58-year-old man isn't macho, it's just embarrassing and disrespectful. Let's just put this into perspective and have a look at Mike in his prime.
Tyson, the baddest man on the planet.
And at the same time, this is what Logan was doing.
Butthead Street.
Wow, you're a jerk. Don't call back again.
So yeah, Logan, I'm sure you think it's all good acting brave and getting loud towards a 58-year-old, but prime Mike Tyson could sneeze in your direction and you would end up in the third row. Bro, Logan can't even get his own brother's promo right. Never mind handling Mike Tyson.
Felt so stupid, Jake. I'm sorry. I ruined one of the biggest moments of your life.
Think about it. Mike is 58. Jake is barely old enough to remember a world without smartphones. It's like throwing a Tesla Cybertruck into a demolition derby full of Ford Pintos. Sure, the Tesla is going to win, but what's the point? And Jake, did you really expect the internet to cheer for you? The boo started before the match even began. And by the time it ended, the collective internet had roasted Jake more than a burnt marshmallow at summer camp.
There's Jake Paul, who promises to donate his proceeds to support his brother's crippling Pokemon card addiction.
Let's not ignore the absurdity of this fight being labeled as legitimate. This wasn't some exhibition match. Nope, it's going down as an actual loss on Mike Tyson's professional record. Let that sink in. Mike's record started when Jake's parents were probably still figuring out which Nirvana album was the best. Now, thanks to this whole circus act, Mike's record includes a loss against the guy who got famous making prank videos on Vine. The thing is, Jake isn't new to this whole shtick. His entire boxing career feels like a greatest hits album of who can I fight next that won't be a real threat. First, he beats a basketball player, then took down a middle-aged wrestler, and after that he knocked out a retired UFC fighter. It's like he's collecting wins against people who barely remember to stretch before a workout. What's next, Jake? A pay-per-view brawl against your own dad in the backyard? And then there's Mike Tyson. The man's a living legend. He's inspired fear, respect, and probably a few therapy sessions throughout his career. But let's be real, Mike Tyson today isn't the same guy who sent grown men to the canvas with one punch. He's closer to his 60th birthday than his prime. The man's been spotted in a wheelchair recently because of health concerns, and yet here he was stepping into the ring to fight a guy half his age. So I'm not sure what his doctors thought about that, and although it probably wasn't a good idea from a health standpoint, respect to Mike for still stepping in the ring. Even if he did do it for the money, Mike still showed some impressive skill and agility leading up to the fight, putting most 60-year-olds to shame. But let's get into the payday, because that obviously played a major role in this whole fight. Mike reportedly made around $20 million for this fight. The man has been open about being millions of dollars in debt, so you can't blame him for saying yes. I mean, me personally, as a nobody, I would let Jake Paul punch me in the face a few times for $20 million. Just know I won't be investing that money into any of Logan's shady crypto scams. But from the outside, that does raise the question, was it worth it for Mike Tyson to get back in the ring at 58 years old and lose to Jake Paul just for the money? I don't know. Comment what you guys think. I guess Mike Tyson would have weighed up the pros and cons and knows his own situation best to make the decision to take the fight. Meanwhile, Jake, he pocketed a cool $40 million. That's right. Jake made nearly double for beating up a guy who's been retired from professional boxing since 2005. If this were a Rocky movie, it would be the one that nobody talks about because it's too embarrassing to admit they made it. And speaking of embarrassing, let's talk about the fight itself. If you tuned in expecting edge of your seat action, you were probably disappointed faster than someone who opens a box of moldy lunchly. Netflix hyped it up with flashy trailers, Logan Paul hyped it up with his usual loudmouth antics, even Mike Tyson himself hyped it up, and Jake Paul getting a slap to the face really got people going. And then what did we get? Maybe a few good punches here and there, but mainly just two guys awkwardly circling each other like they were debating whether to hug or punch. Both Jake Paul and Logan claimed that Jake was holding back,
but I didn't want to hurt someone that didn't need to be hurt.
Which, even if this was true, this is the reason you don't fight a 58-year-old man, because people wanted to see a fight, and especially see Jake Paul get knocked out. While on the other hand, the internet felt Mike Tyson was holding back. Which made people believe the fight was scripted, so either that or the fact that Mike is 58 and no longer in his prime. Oh, and the streaming quality, absolute garbage. Millions of people tuned in to watch, only to be met with buffering screens and pixelated images. At one point it looked like we were watching Mike Tyson fight in Minecraft. But you know the Paul brothers have reached a new low when Andrew Tate, yes, someone who probably holds more controversial titles than Logan Paul, is more sensible and respectful towards Mike Tyson than the Paul brothers.
Would you fight Mike Tyson?
Again, no, because he's now old. And it would be an absolutely tragic shame to knock out an old version of his prime self. That doesn't feel fair. Prime Tyson would have ripped me apart in a boxing match. I'm not a boxer, right?
Yeah.
He would have beaten me, so to beat him when he's past his prime just feels dishonorable, and I'd feel dirty for doing that. So there's no amount of money on the planet that could convince me to fight.
This fight never should have happened. It's a travesty wrapped in a cash grab disguised as a boxing match. Even KSI had something to say about this. He called the fight sad and questioned why it was even allowed to happen, and honestly he's not wrong. I think Jake needs to fight KSI next because that's what people really want to see, or even a rematch with Tommy Fury, because Jake's only loss is when he actually fights real boxers. Now, in saying that, I do think Jake himself is a decent boxer and is taking the sport seriously, but if he wants everyone else to take his boxing seriously, I feel he needs to find more fitting opponents, because some are for this whole influencer boxing thing and some are completely against it. Boxing is a sport showcasing skill, discipline, bravery and respect, while some of these fights are just being reduced to influencer drama and pay-per-view cash grabs. So if there's one takeaway, it's this: Jake Paul is a businessman first and foremost. His bank account is laughing all the way to the Cayman Islands. So if Jake really wants to prove himself, he needs to fight someone in their prime, a boxer who actually has a chance of beating him. Until then, he's just the guy who punches people who are either retired, out of their depth, or old enough to be his dad, and no amount of money can make that look good.